Serving the universe from the mushing capital of the world, Willow, Alaska. This is Mushing, brought to you by First Paw Media. Let's hit the trail. Nobody covers dog sledding like Mushing from First Paw Media. Our team of athletes, volunteers, race organizers, and mushers like Robert and Michelle Forto brings you closer to the sport. If it's happening, we are there. Live from the qualifying races in January and February, the Iditarod in March, and in the summer, Mushing takes you on the road with our team and trail tour. We connect you with a history of the sport, in-depth interviews with the top mushers, and great storytelling and breaking news all year long. Follow on mushing.com.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert from Mushing, and today I am welcoming Fernando Ramirez. He is calling in from Park City, Utah, a really interesting guy, and I think you guys are going to be really impressed with the story that we're going to talk about today. Fernando, how's it going today?
Really good, Robert. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I know that you and I have been Facebook or social media friends for a while, and I reached out to you over on Instagram because I saw some pretty cool pictures that you guys have been posting lately. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys are doing down there in Utah. So can you do us a favor and tell us briefly who you are and what you're all about, please?
Yeah. So I grew up in Park City, Utah. I've been running dogs from a very early age in grade school, and it's just been a part of my DNA in a sense, right? So now, in present time, my wife and I, Dana, we have own and operate Rancho Luna Lobos. So we offer tours, we rescue dogs, we race, and then we have a kids summer program and all sorts of things going on at the ranch. So it's a really busy and happening place, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about all that you're doing there, but I think you have one of the coolest kennel names that I have heard in a while. What is it again, and what does it mean?
Yeah, thank you so much. It actually, so it's Spanish, right? Rancho Luna Lobos. It means Ranch of the Moon Wolves. And the story behind that, my wife, when we were deciding, gosh, it was like 15 years ago, we were deciding what to name our ranch, our kennel. She likes the stories of, me sneaking out at night as a kid. Instead of sneaking out, to go to parties or whatever, I sneak out on a full moon in the winter, hook up my team and go for a moon ride, and so she always thought that was funny. And so, running along that avenue, she's like, our ranch should be called Ranch of the Moon Wolves, you'd head off into the wilderness like a wolf, a lone wolf out there. So
I like it for sure. So you guys are in and around Park City, and for folks that are listening outside of America, that is very close, if not the location where a lot of the Winter Olympics were happening in the early 2000s when it was in the Salt Lake City area. So a lot of ski resorts. I believe that's where they do the Sundance Film Festival. A lot is happening in the outdoors in that neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah, so much so. And you're right. A lot of the 2002 Olympic Games, a lot of the events happened in Park City, and Utah, Salt Lake City just got the 2034 games. Okay. So we're going to have that here as well. Yeah. But definitely a lot of outdoorsy people, a lot of recreation. There's a lot to do. But yes, primarily the skiing is what brings in our tourism here.
So with that, with a kind of a ski-centric town, I know that you guys do tours and all of that. How do you guys go about attracting your clients? Because a lot of times people that are really focused on one outdoor activity, whether it be skiing or whatever, they're kind of focused on that. How do you attract your clients on the tour side?
That's a great question. Great question, Robert. In the past, Dana and we used to go to the hotels and, build relationships with the concierge and the hotels and in the industry in that sense. And they would send their clients over. But over the years, we've been very lucky to have, a reputation built in and just sort of word of mouth. And so we're kind of like a local attraction, I guess you could say. So there are a lot of people that love the skiing. It is, it can be a little taxing on the legs and your body when you're from sea level and visiting, 7,000 feet. So a lot of people are looking for things to do on their day off, whether it be tubing, ice skating, and then for us, dog sledding, which is great. And so we like to provide a really unique, fun, but most importantly, an educational experience. We used to offer, I would say like the 1 hour to 2 hour tours. And then I started dabbling in the 4 hour tours. But what I came to really find out was, our clients, our guests really just like to spend time with the dogs. And so I totally just revamped my whole program. There was a transition there as like a person, as a musher, as a kennel owner that I went through, and I just changed everything. And so that's kind of the direction we're heading down now, even.
So with that, that is much different than a lot of tours, in particular up here in Alaska, that is so cruise centric. People are getting off of the cruise ships and then going up to the glaciers or whatever, and taking a quick ride with the dogs, and then a lot of them are becoming hooked on mushing, and some of those folks have even gone on and run Iditarod and all of that. But you said that you do a longer tour. I think you said 4 hours. What does that look like for your clients? Obviously, they're going out on a ride, but what does the rest of that day look like for them?
Yeah. Sorry, Robert. Just to clarify, yeah, we used to offer those tours, and it was fun. We used to do like an out and back. We had a few permits in the backcountry that we were able to use, and light a fire pit halfway through and have a fun picnic with the dogs and our guests. But I had a very well-known handler. Actually, she's so well-known. I'll leave her name out of it. She's such a sweetheart. But she came down from Alaska to help me. She handled for me for a few years, and she really kind of opened my eyes a lot to just the different aspects of the sport. And it really got me thinking. And when I say sort of like this transition area where I kind of had some moments and some time to self-reflect, I guess we could say, lack of a better term, I knew the way I wanted to take the direction of my kennel for the future. And that was essentially being an open book, being as transparent as possible. So what we started to see, I'll put it to you this way, a lot, unless you are in Alaska, a lot of people won't have the opportunity to witness a dog sled race,
right?
And very far and few, but there are a lot of people that have the opportunity to visit a ski town, all over the country, all over the world. And I feel the touring industry is becoming the face of our sport. It really is. People romanticize about Iditarod and some of these other races, and they get the notion of like, oh my gosh, that's what it should. That's what it is. But when they go and they experience a tour with the company, they're going to have that lasting impression of their experience at that kennel, and they're going to say, oh my gosh, okay, that's what dog sledding is. So knowing that and taking that to heart, I wanted to provide the most transparent experience possible that we could offer. And my wife and I, we do a lot of rescue. One thing that we have noticed, living in the general region that we do, we get a lot of folks that buy these beautiful puppies, Siberian Husky puppies or Sepala Siberians, that they were able to get in contact with or hookups with and then purchase them. But they come to find out that these dogs are very different than your average Labrador or Poodle, and they can no longer take care of them. And so we started sort of becoming like this, not necessarily like a drop-off place, but it felt like it. It felt like people would drop off their dogs, and we'd work with these guys. We'd pull a lot from shelters as well, trying to get them out of, off the euthanization list. And we used dog sledding as a form, or we still do. I don't say we use it, but we still use dog sledding as a form of therapy for these dogs. And I feel personally like being able to present the dogs with this opportunity to discover who they are and what they're made to be will then let me know whether they are meant to be a sled dog, or maybe I should take the time and find a really good home to place them in. On the flip side, it really shows the guests that, me as a musher, I'm doing the best I can to represent not only my kennel, but I'm doing the best I can to represent our sport. and showing them that, like, we really take the time to study each dog, the personalities, their quirks, and quite frankly, like, what makes them succeed. And if it's not with me in my kennel, maybe it's with a family on a couch or, on a weekend warrior type trail. But that's the base of who we are as a kennel and as a family. We just want to promote how should I say, like, a really good, healthy, we want to promote the touring industry and show the general public how pure and amazing our sport is. And so that's what we strive to do every day.
I really like that, Fernando. I was up in northern Minnesota earlier this summer, and we visited a kennel, Chili Dogs. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Jake and what they do.
I've heard it. Yes.
Yeah. So very similar setup to what you guys do, but they use I guess they're retired race dogs. So not necessarily the pet rescues like you do, but more of the, okay, well, this guy has had his career as, a Bear Grease dog or whatever. And they provide that, that final leg, if you will, of a racing dog's life to be able to do that. So a very similar situation. And they also work with kids. I think they work with the scouts up there at their kennel, but I understand that you have some type of kids program as well. What do you do there?
Yeah. What it came down to is when I first started, I wanted to learn more about the sport. And I started pretty much trial and error, with a yellow lab I had. And it was just a fun, experience. But growing up, I was lucky enough to, run into one of my biology teachers, and she really helped me, kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together for me. And I was able to just gain traction and really gain some momentum. And so, looking at that, Dana and I, my wife and I, really wanted to create an atmosphere, an environment, or really a place where kids can come and learn about our sport in particular. But what we're really trying to do, we're really trying to dive deep and grab a hold of those kids in a sense of, like, because there's so much of this bullying thing going around. There's so much lack of self-confidence. And there's just so many things that are starting in these kids' lives so young that I feel like by the time they hit their 20s, they're almost defeated, in a sense. And so what we're trying to do is illustrate stories using our rescue dogs, about, the different obstacles they've overcome to become not only the athletes that they are today, but more importantly, the individuals that they are today. And so it's very much a team building experience with these children and the dogs. I like to pair each kid with a dog, and they build that relationship. And we do fun little quarter-mile dry land tours with them. A lot, like I said before, team building activities with them. And that's the summer. And in the winter, we do the same kind of thing. But we actually have, about 15, 17 junior sleds that we use. And the kids are able to switch off and use different pairs of dogs and really connect with them in that way as well. So we're trying to promote the sport because, as you know, Robert, it is a dying sport, and we need to do the best we can to keep it alive.
For sure. And that's one of the main reasons why we do this podcast, is be able to reach out to people that aren't necessarily involved with the sport, because most of our people that listen are just fans of the lifestyle or the sport as we go. So one other question about your kid program, is it age specific, or are you working primarily with elementary or junior high or high school or what?
Yeah, I'm basically anyone that wants to learn is who we work with, but we find more on average, it's middle school age kids that come through, and they really take a liking. Yeah, they really come. But we allow anyone from at least ages 8 and up to come through. Yeah.
And is this like a field trip, or is this a multi-day thing?
Multi-day for sure. In the summer, it's a weekly day camp. Excuse me. We offer 7 weeks through the summer, and it's a day camp Monday through Friday. In the winter, though, our winter program starts. Excuse me. Sorry. Our winter program starts early November, and it'll go through the end of January. So they come on the weekends, they learn everything and anything about the sport, anything I have to share, they'll learn. And then we host a fun race for them at the end of their season.
Oh, I like that, especially the racing part, because that truly is kind of that full circle, because most of our fans are most familiar, as you mentioned earlier, they're familiar with Iditarod or things like that. But if they can kind of see that sort of behind the scenes and then leading up to, hey, this is kind of what it's like to race, which brings me to my next question. So many people ask us to ask our guests sort of behind the scenes or a day in the life of whatever you guys are doing. And I know that you guys have a lot of dogs. I think I wrote down 108 dogs. So you guys have your hands full. Can you tell us briefly, Fernando, what a day in the life looks like for you or your wife or a handler or whomever?
Yeah, that's a great question, Robert. And I think, gosh, it's the dogs, our lives revolve around the dogs. And so, 6 a.m. start, hydrating, feeding. We have a huge free play, free drop program. So whether it's a free hike or just play around the yard, we at least try to get an hour in the morning. This is in the winter, of course, I'm speaking of. And then we have our tours. So even right before a tour, the dogs are running around and playing, and we hook them up to the sled. We share we have 2 time slots we offer during the day. And so once that's over, it's cool down, feeding time with the dogs, checking over paws and massaging dogs and making sure everyone's good. And then we have our little retirement center / we do very, very light dog boarding on the side. And I mean like maybe 10 dogs at most. And so we take care of them. We have some light training with those guys, and our handlers, honestly, we couldn't do this without our handlers. They are the backbone of this operation. They work so hard and endlessly to provide not only a great opportunity in life for the dogs, but to help us and just kind of offset some work. But even that, Robert, we're starting, like I said, 6 a.m. and ending it around, sometimes even 10 p.m. at night. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is definitely a lifestyle, no matter what you are involved with in the sport. What kind of crew do you have? How many people are working with you? And are they live-in crew, or are they kind of, regular 9-to-5ers or what?
Yeah. So we have, in the summer, I usually have about 13 crew with us that work for me. And then in the winter, I have 6 guides. 2 of them are on-site living. And then the rest, I'm really fortunate and lucky that they live super close. So not, within like what do they say? Like as the crow flies, within a mile or 2 of us, which makes it super easy.
So Fernando, you said you had 108 dogs. You also said that a lot of them are rescues. So I have a couple of questions about the dogs, but first off, of the ones that are not rescued, do you have a particular line? Do they come from a particular spot, something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have my main racing line. I have about 18 dogs. I would say about half of them are kind of mixed, with my lines that I've kind of dabbled with over the years off and on. And then I have Streeper lines. I have Bruce Magnuson lines, and then Jake Robinson lines in there. So I have a good team right now. It's probably the best race team I've ever had in my history, at least of racing. 2 years ago in 2023, we went to we had IFSS World Championships in Sweden. We flew 8 dogs over there to Europe to race, and that was an eye opener. I showed up with some hounds and some Alaskans, and everyone else was racing those Euro hounds. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole different world. But since then, I've been really kind of trying to perfect my lines, and so that's where we're at right now, and I'm excited to see what these guys can do.
Well, before I ask the next question about the dogs, let me talk very briefly about the racing side. You talked about going over to Europe to race, and I remember having some guys on that went over a year or 2 ago to the dryland races over in Spain, and they were the best in the country. They were the top drivers from America, and they just struggled from racing with the Europeans. Of course, that's their home turf. I guess it's sort of kind of like home field advantage. No matter where you play, whatever sport, you have that advantage. But was it just in a whole nother level, or what when you went over there?
Yeah, it is. It's very, very competitive. Like, it's a whole different. I think for us here, we have our tight knit community in the United States, and I think it's very competitive. But over there, I feel like it's celebrated. You know, it's I don't know, the equivalent of the Super Bowl. I don't know what it is, but these guys, they have their programs, and not saying that we don't, but it felt like a different vibe going on.
Yep.
And, I think the trouble was too, looking back when we traveled over there, that jet lag is a real thing, and we were lucky to rent a cabin, that had trail access right outside the barn, essentially. And, we had to do a couple of shakeout runs just to make sure the kids were feeling good and loose and just really poppy. But I wondered, those guys going over to Spain, I wondered if they didn't have enough opportunity to sort of, get in the, what is that? Get the rust off the legs, so to speak. And,
right.
Sort of get on the same level. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it was dry land. So it was, one and done. It was just, you run a mile or two a day and then you're done, whether you're doing Canicross or bike jor or whatever. It's not like you're going to go out and run 20 or 30 miles or whatever, in a, more traditional type mushing event as well. So you had mentioned some names in your lines. Are you primarily in the, at least in the racing side, are you primarily doing sprint racing?
Yeah, I kind of do sort of a mid sprint. So, and then open class is usually what I think I specialize in mainly. So anything from the Yellowstone Special to, I just discovered the Quebec series last year. In the open class, that is a ton of fun. And I raced the Pedigree stage stop race, the main stage 3 times. And then I did, ran the Paul up in Manitoba, Canada. So that kind of mile range is like my bread and butter, I think.
So Quebec, so you went all the way out there for a series?
I did. You have a phenomenal series out there, and you talk about some fast athletes. I mean, it's very similar to the European circuit. It's pretty quick. I'm sure Alaska is the same way. I've heard phenomenal things. I just haven't had the opportunity to head up to Alaska and do that circuit, which I want to do, and hopefully I get to do that soon. But Quebec was a trip. Yeah, we drove out there first of all for Laconia, New Hampshire. The Laconia World Championships in New Hampshire.
Right.
And then everyone was telling me, hey, you should do the Quebec series. And so we went back and did that series, and we just had a blast. Yeah, it was fun.
Wow. Pretty cool. Yeah, you got a lot going on with racing and the camps that you do and the rescue and the tours and all of that. It sounds like you really are firing at all cylinders. Fernando, I always ask my guests the same questions, and I kind of gave you an idea of what they were before we jumped on the air. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first one is, and you kind of talked about this a second ago, about the the future of the sport of dog mushing, whether it's the sport or the lifestyle or whatever. But where do you see us in 5 to 10 years, a decade from now? What do you think the whole thing looks like?
If I can speak honestly, I mean, obviously, I think we need to be, as mushers, very, very diligent on being super. I think we need to be transparent, with the public. As you know, dog slaying is kind of seen in a gray light. A lot of people that don't know much about the sport think like, oh my gosh, like these dogs are forced to run, and I don't like it. But when they actually do come and spend time with a musher and their team, they can really tell, like, man, these guys are amped up and this is what they live and breathe for. Like, wow, I had no idea. So I think we need to be, as mushers, as transparent as possible. And, we used to meet our guests at a trailhead and do our tours out there. And then that's why, I decided to open up our operation here. And so everyone can see, even the kennels and everything like that. And there is a little bit of like, fear, because you open yourself up to possible scrutiny or whatever. But, I'm willing to take that hit, because if we want the sport to to succeed and to thrive even in the future, we need to be, like I mentioned, transparent and willing to educate the public as much as possible. I also think if we can work together as a team of mushers, I know Mushing with Pride is out there, Mush with Pride. But in the touring industry, if we were to have some help with like a governing body in a sense that could help promote, help, assistance, and I don't know how they could do it, but, not just by guidelines online, but having, actual people come and bounce ideas off of that would be awesome. And I think in 10 years, this industry can be as strong as ever. I really do. Unfortunately, I look at, I have to acknowledge and say that there have been some documentaries and things like that sort of promote against our industry and our sports. And so we have to, the only way we can sort of, not necessarily, I don't want to say fight back, but keep our sport alive and thriving is by showing everyone how beautiful it is, and how we as mushers truly care about what we do. And if this is an art form, and this is very unique for all of us, and we're trying to do the best we can to provide a good home for the dogs and lifestyle.
Excellent response to that. I hear all over the board on that question. Some people are worried about the climate and the financial side and, all of that. But I think it all comes back to community. I think community is so important, whatever you're doing, whatever sport. And if you can combine the knowledge of that community, I think that's going to go a long way. And I think that is definitely a possibility. So the next question I have for you, Fernando, is I know you probably know this answer probably better than most. And that is, if a person comes up to you and they want to get involved in the sport or the lifestyle, but you could only give them one piece of advice, not this long diatribe about everything that you know, if you could only spend 30 seconds with them, what would you tell them for that one piece of advice?
I would honestly just tell them it's a journey, it's a lifestyle, it's a commitment. And quite frankly, like you just have to, when things get hard, just put your boots on and go back out the next day and keep working at it, because it's not easy.
All right. What do they say? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or whatever that saying is. So that's sort of the advice, is just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. And get a good mentor for sure.
For sure. Yeah. All right. So the next one is our newest segment to the show, and that is where our previous guest asks the next guest, which happens to be you, of course, a question. And I'm going to have you ask the question first before I give you the question that the other guest answered. So think about this for just a second. You have no idea who it's going to be. We do not know if it's a musher or a veterinarian or a filmmaker or an author. It's just somebody related to the sport of dog mushing. What would be one question you would like to ask that person?
Ooh. Let's see here. Okay, how can I say this? What musher, present or history, would you want to share the trail with for an hour? I'll say that.
For an hour. All right. I like that.
Yeah. Just a nice, fun run through the woods. Yeah. For an hour.
Okay. I will make sure I write that down and pass it on to the next one. So the question for you, Fernando, is from Matt Redwine. He is the trail boss. I think he's been the trail boss for almost as long as the race has been around, the Pedigree Stage Stop. So this guy is an old sourdough, if you will, on the trail, but does not have anything to do with dogs. He's strictly the boss of the trail. So he asks, what do you feed your sled dogs, and why do you feed them that? Whether it be raw or kibble, or a little bit about your feeding program and why you went down that route.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know Matt, he's a great guy. So feeding, we use a mix of kibble and meat. We tend to go back and forth between elk and beef, primarily beef. And then, we have supplements that we use. So we use Genesis from 10 Squared Racing for their morning hydration and their evening feed. And then psyllium powder. We mix in some psyllium powder in there as well during their feeding time and in the evening. And that's just for, good digestive system, excuse me. And then we have also from 10 Squared Racing, it's called Revive. It's like a doggy Gatorade that we use. So it's a good, fun little, electrolyte type drink that the dogs can eat. Some of them don't like to drink it, so we freeze it in ice cube trays, and we put pieces of liver and meat in the ice cube trays, and then they eat these little fun popsicles, and they enjoy it. But I figure the more you can make the diet interesting and fun, the dogs just always get pumped and they get excited.
All right. So there you have it, Matt, what these guys feed and why. So I like that. I like that, how this is able to bring one episode to the other. And I'm really excited to figure out who our next guest is and talk about an hour on the trail with whomever. It'll be interesting to hear what they come up with. Fernando, before we figure out how folks can follow you, do you have anything else you want to talk about, mention, promote, whatever?
Yeah, no, everyone just do your snow dance. Hopefully we get some snow this year. Last year was really rough. So, smile to each other along the trail. And I hope, honestly, I cross trails with you this winter. So
excellent.
Yeah.
I like that. And very quickly, did you meet up with Roan and Alyssa earlier this summer?
Yeah, they actually came all the way down from Alaska to do, they were guest speakers for our kids at our summer camp. And then we had a fun event for them that night. And Roan and Alyssa got to talk about their stories out on the trail and their kennel. And it was just an amazing day and evening.
Well, to bring it full circle, I believe when we did the interview with them, we also did a quick podcast when we were talking with them for the issue of Mushing magazine. I think they were heading down your way like the next week or something. They were very excited to head down to your neck of the woods and meet up with you guys. It is such a small community, folks up here doing their thing and you guys doing your thing down there. That's what it's all about. As you mentioned, that's how we're going to continue the sport, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. That was so great that they made the cover of Mushing magazine, and that's awesome. And they're just the nicest, most humble, awesome people you'll ever meet. So they are just amazing. Yeah,
for sure. So I said that I met up with you on Instagram. Where are you guys most active on social? And do you have a website, and what is it?
Yes. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's all the same panhandle, right? Rancho Luna Lobos. And our website it should be Rancho Luna Lobos, but it's lunalobos.com.
Okay.
So we're on there. Yeah. Answer any questions and give us a follow.
And we will definitely put those on the show notes. So on behalf of my guest today, Fernando Ramirez from Park City, Utah area, it was a pleasure. Thank you for being on, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. On behalf of my guest today, this is Robert from Mushing. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Are you a fan of the great outdoors? Do you enjoy the thrill of speed and adventure? Then listen up. Introducing Mushing, your ultimate guide to the exciting world of dog-powered sports and mushing. Whether you're a seasoned musher or just starting out, Mushing has got you covered. Get ready to immerse yourself in captivating stories of incredible sled dog races, expert training tips from seasoned professionals, and gear reviews to help you make the right choices for your team. From the breathtaking landscapes of Alaska to the snowy trails of Scandinavia, Mushing takes you on a thrilling journey through the world of dog-powered sports. Don't miss out on the latest issue, packed with exclusive interviews with top mushers, in-depth articles on sled dog nutrition, and stunning photography that will transport you to the heart of the action. So whether you're dreaming of competing in the Iditarod or simply want to learn more about this incredible sport, Mushing is your go-to resource. Subscribe now and get ready to unleash your passion for mushing. Visit our website at mushing.com or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Mushing, where the spirit of adventure meets the power of the pack.